What is up, everybody? If it isn't little old me, being on time. Whoa, shit. Hi, Katrina. I didn't notice you were trying to walk through that door right as I was closing it. You want to say hi to the stream, Katrina? Want to say hi? Come, buddy. Yeah. Anyway, oops, I did not mean to drop that. Welcome to the broadcast, guys. It is I, Finn, Control Finn of the Control Finn broadcast. I'm Finn of the Control Finn broadcast, I mean. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm a Dutch Portuguese political commentator. I do news commentary. I stream the news. We talk about European news mostly. What are European leaders up to? What is happening to European people across the continent? Where the protests are happening, where is crazy legislation being passed. We talk about it all on the broadcast. And why? Well, because I think it is very important that we actually have a little bit of an idea about what's going on. Hey, honey, are you going to stop? Yeah, that's why you get stuck. Because you go crazy. You don't even want to sit on my lap anymore. You just want to... Come here. Come here. Come say hi. Okay. Anyway, on the broadcast, we talk about a couple different things. We talk about, what's up with class politics. What are people actually feeling, and what do people actually want? And we try to also readjust some of our perspectives that might be wrong because of the things we are constantly seeing on the news. That some of these extremely, right wing politicians are telling us. A version of reality that is not true. In that way, I hope to, re-angle, to redirect our energy and our frustrations at those in power that are actually making our lives worse. But, that's one step at a time. For today, we'll get to the news in a bit. For now, I'm going to yap a little bit about what I've been up to since I last streamed and now. So let's see. Last time I streamed was Saturday evening. It was a pretty fun stream. We talked about some news. We did a bit of React content as well. One of you shared an interesting video. So that was all fine and dandy. And then Sunday was pretty normal for me. I'm not going to lie. I just did a bunch of meal prep. Oh yeah, with a friend of mine, I have been fucking going at it in League of Legends. I know. Okay, I'm sorry for that background noise. I fear that I live right above like a car mechanic shop, and I fear that they have decided that now is the right time to really rev it up. There we go, revving it up. So yeah, sorry, apologize for that background noise, but so I've been really with a friend of mine grinding in League of Legends, and it's been pretty fun. Usually I go like support or mid, but honestly I go every lane because I'm just that good. But no, that's been good. So we're grinding it out. Who knows where we'll get. Also been playing a lot of chess, and I also am okay. So I'm, consistently doing a little bit of exercise, but I also very specifically figured out that I suck at doing planks now. So, got a new quest, a new challenge on my plate. I'm gonna be doing some like a bit of a plank challenge. Like I'm gonna try to get like for a long time. So right now I can do at least a minute, like, straight, and then a minute on one arm, a minute on a side plank on the other arm. So that's good. That's a good, starting off point. Of course, when I was younger. I'm still a young 27, but when I was younger, that that noise is so distracting, guys. Every time it's kind of comedic because every time I stop talking, it goes away, and every time I start talking, it comes back up. But yeah, I'm still a young as hell. So, but when I was even younger, we used to do a lot of planking in volleyball. So, in those days, I was able to really, do a long plank. but I feel like it's not bad. It's not bad. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of a planking challenge with myself. You know, get that core really active. So yeah, that we'll figure it out. And I mean, hey, look at us. Look at literally the screen right now. It is sunny, guys. It's literally sunny. So you know that's pretty awesome. The light is staying out much longer, which is good for the stream. It's good for my mental health. I'm gonna get a tan again. Don't get it twisted, guys. I'm white, but I have a tan in the summer. Anyway, yeah, that's it from my side. Honestly, I don't know if I have much else to say. Let's see. What else did I want to share? That's kind of it right now, guys. Let's dive into the news. Like, I am so early today. Usually I only am able to really go live or like appear at like 20 past. So I think in a lot of ways I am nice and ahead of stuff. Now let me just figure out some things over here, guys. Hey. Let's see. Oh yeah. Guys, for today's blast off meme, I went with a fucking hilarious Economist thing. Wait, let me see. Man, where is it? Also, I think yesterday I finally emptied my phone, dude. Jesus Christ. I feel like for months I have been struggling to have any kind of space on my phone, so I really took out a lot of like pics and stuff like that. But by God, I mean, Jesus Christ, it was so necessary. But yeah, I just want to share the Economist page. It was just the funniest fucking thing ever. I'm also gonna just share it on my story because it's just so. Let's see. Sheesh. Yeah, so this was The Economist today. Kind of hilarious. I literally stole that shit. I seized the memes of production. But yeah, so The Economist posted this. It's just a cropped version of it. But it's just, you know, never interrupt your enemies while they're making a mistake. But this is, God, I mean, the image itself is great, but also just like the politics behind it. This is leftist politics, this is leftist discourse, so we love to see it. We're winning. And I mean, it's funny to see it in this way, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, I'm going to talk about it today as well. Like, public opinion in general is really turning. Public opinion at large, the majority of people are anti-war to begin with. And for the most part, like centrist parties, even some center-left parties, haven't done their due diligence in, you know, representing the people's interest. And so what we're seeing right now is that it is becoming so undeniable that not only is this war a fail, people don't support it. It is actually a really popular position in even that to be against the war. So whereas you have, you know, the Greens in the UK and like Pedro Sanchez's party and you know, other leftists being, you know, firmly anti-war from the start, you know, the rest of society is catching up now, and that means that, you know, the far right is not far behind, and they will do what they usually do when they engage in populist politics, populist reactionary right-wing politics, is that they will take this incredibly popular position, but they will inevitably also, you know, make things worse for people and not actually, you know, make policy, do politics that would actually, you know, elevate people's interests. Not at all. Because at the end of the day, the far right doesn't give a fuck about, you know, us peasants. The far right only cares about, you know, dismantling public services and any other kind of public institutions that society has, dismantling communities and any kind of cohesive organizing that society has in order to exploit us even more. And they do it in the same way that neoliberals and you know, centrist liberals want to do that as well, except they're a little bit overtly more xenophobic, sexist, racist, you know, all of that about it. Let's see, I just wanted to post one more thing on my story. There we go. Okay, great. So, yeah, guys, we're going to also talk about Operation Epic Fail, Operation Epstein's Fury, day 33. Again, Wednesdays are a little bit more news, quick fire, rapid fire news. Just talking a little bit more generally about how things are going, you know, how our politicians are reacting to some of the developing news stories, and updating on, you know, certain local elections or whatever. But of course, we will talk about some of the, you know, overarching things that are happening as a result of Israel and America's war on Iran. Besides that, we're also specifically going to look at how Israel has passed a policy for them to be able to apply death penalty against specifically Palestinians. And well, this is just as horrifying as it sounds. It is just, you know, it's just another layer of depravity and barbaric, you know, genocidal apartheid regime status quo, you know. And I think it is so horrific that we still have leaders, whether that be in Germany or fucking UK, wherever, that consider Israel to be their friend, their close ally, that we ought to be on their side, that, you know, we don't need to do anything, maybe some words of condemnation here or there, but that this is just, you know, just our ally, we ought to support them against those terrorists, you know, those people, those children that they are bombing, families that they're completely destroying, wiping out of the registry, the family registry. That's what Europe apparently considers their allies. So yeah, let's just dive into it. Let's see. Where do I even start off? I mean, we can kind of start off with what I was talking about with how public opinion is changing about the war. But we are, in return, like, it's a good thing that the public is changing more, you know, specifically to be against the war. But this also means that, you know, far-right parties that are populist will try to capitalize on it. And one of the few places we saw it, well, we've seen it in Italy with their leader. We're seeing it here with Le Pen, Marie Le Pen. And we also saw it in Germany with the AfD, Alternative for Germany party, the far-right extremist party as well. Marie Le Pen hammers Trump as Iran war triggers spiraling energy crisis. So, you know, people are in Europe also feeling the consequences of it. And nothing makes people more upset when their material conditions just worsen and worsen. Like, yes, people might be upset because, you know, they know people are suffering, genocide is being committed against them, and all of this kind of stuff. But as soon as it also begins to affect people's pockets, people's wallets, that's when people also traditionally really, you know, that's one way to also really channel people's anger about the whole situation. And so let's see if I have a specific video for that. Yeah, let's just start here. Let's see what the sound levels are like.
France is getting on Donald Trump's nerves. This time he has accused the US ally of not sharing its airspace.
The country of France wouldn't let...
So, yeah, what we're also still seeing is Donald Trump is still very much in baby rage mode, very much still upset at all of the European and NATO allies that just don't want to come to his defense. Whatever the Zoran meme is with Miss Rachel. But yeah, bro is so fucking lost in the sauce. He's just like, how dare you not come into this losing war with me that everyone hates, and that is just costing everyone a ton of resources. You know, get your own oil. Trump launches tirade against Europe for not joining Iran war. Many countries in Europe have called the conflict illegal, with some blocking Israeli and U.S. planes from moving weapons to their airspace, which is crazy that Israeli planes are even allowed to move through European airspace. Again, Israel is committing a genocide. There is a horrifying crisis unfolding right now against Palestinians. So it shouldn't even be, you know, allowed, period. But now apparently for the war in Iran, this is also apparently something that I guess is getting people to move a little bit. But yeah, Donald Trump, as per usual, going on tirades. Yeah, so what we're seeing is, by the way, when Trump says other countries to go get your own oil, they won't do so militarily. They will pay Tehran's hostage toll, consolidating their control over the Strait and massively enriching the regime. If this ends with European and Asian and African countries paying Iran to get oil through the Strait, that is actually a fairly stable arrangement because all parties will have an incentive to keep it stable, except, of course, Israel and the US, the real source of global instability. So, exactly. I think what we should all really get into our minds is that, you know, what is Europe's perspective in this? Europe, even though there is clear, like, you know, allyship ties between Europe and the US that go back many decades. At the end of the day, nations are also very much motivated by their own ruling elites, by their own capitalists, by their own bourgeois states' interests. And Europe has been in decline in a lot of ways, not because of, you know, the stupid lies that people like to pretend is the case, like, oh, migrants, this, that. No, it's because, you know, here we also have ruling class that loves exploiting all of the people that live here, with giving very little in return from all of the work that people do. But Europe does, in a way, want to be more independent. It wants to figure out a way to be able to project their position a little bit again as what they had before. And so, you know, Europe is trying to find ways to be independent without upsetting Trump too much. And when I say Europe, I both refer to like the one European market as well as like the leading European figures. And so, you know, they're trying to find a way to be independent, to have different trading partners and all that stuff than the US. But at the same time, you know, they can't upset Trump too much because then everything, I don't know, then they have to go on a whole like apology tour to the US, and that's not super practical to do. But, you know, at the end of the day, you wonder if things could get to a breaking point because, like, maybe Europe can only be pushed around so much, and they will actually, you know, do these things that are in their own best interest instead of placing themselves at the feet of Trump to be used for his own interests. It will be to see what actually happens. Probably mostly leaning to Trump's interests, but, you know, Europe has always been, or not always, Europe has recently incredibly been like focused on their own interest and their own independence. So, you know, who's to say? But let's go back to the video.
Planes headed to Israel loaded with military supplies fly over French territory. France has been very unhelpful with respect to the butcher of Iran, who has been successfully eliminated. The USA will remember.
However, the US president's social media post came as a surprise to France. President Emmanuel Macron's office assured Tuesday that it had not changed its position on US military overflights, namely that it does not allow aircraft used for military purposes to use its airspace to reach Israel. It comes, however, a day after Spain decided to reject all flights involved in actions related to the operations in Iran, with President.
Yeah, it's so funny for Trump to also just be upset at countries like France, because France is really one of those countries that, Germany is really, all about yapping about how much we need to support Israel and Israel is our friend, all of that stuff. That's like Germany's speed. But France also is really good at, maintaining this like insane, relationship still with Israel. Like their foreign minister not too long ago went to talk in Tel Aviv, and at the same time, when they're supposed to kind of be on the side of Lebanese people that are also getting completely fucked. And there's so many, like there's over 1 million people displaced right now. So France is really, locked in with US and Israel. So it's kind of crazy that, the United States is so set on complaining against a loyal vassal state, slave mentality vassal states, like that one, like France. Of course, the UK has also been a little bit in Trump's crosshairs. But again, like these are countries that are so in line with what Trump wants, with what the United States wants, that it is kind of crazy to me that he's that, focused on criticizing them publicly and lashing them and wanting them to fall in line and all that stuff. Yeah, and I mean, the Spanish president is the outlier in that regard. He's more outspoken. He is also, taking action as far as like banning the United States from entering their airspace or using their bases. Yeah, anyway, let's continue.
Pedro Sanchez saying he did not want his country to take part in what he called illegal wars. And as Italy recently refused to allow US fighter jets engage with the war in the Middle East to land at its Sigonella base in Sicily. The pushback from US allies and NATO members has Washington clearly riled.
When we ask for additional assistance or simple access basing overflight, we get questions or roadblocks. Or
I'm sorry, but it is so embarrassing. God, man, it's so embarrassing that he's gonna get up on his little desk and be like, "Oh, my genocidal buddies don't want to support me. You guys suck. I can't believe it. Oh, you're gonna hate the day that you turned against me." That, like, really? That's what the hell, man? I mean, yeah, they're probably a bit upset because they're like, "God damn it, Europe, you're supposed to be our bitch. We spent years trying to, make you more right-wing and elect, pro-American, like MAGA people in your governments and institutions. What the fuck are you doing resisting? Don't you know that our rapist president-in-chief doesn't like the word no? What are you doing?" Yeah, I don't know, man. They're flailing for sure. God damn.
And the president's pointing out, you don't have much of an alliance if you have countries that are not willing to stand with you when you need them.
Trump also singled out the United Kingdom on Tuesday as one of the countries he said would have to start learning to fight for itself, as he once again vented frustration at US allies that are reluctant to...
I mean, it's funny because at the end of the day, NATO, I mean, we, like I said, it's on Saturday. I'm going to focus a little bit more on like doing deep dives into like European, into like what's the situation in Europe? Like what can we learn about like European capitalism and the state of things here? Because, the fact like NATO is such an interesting beast to me because clearly it is a way. I mean, Mark Rutte said it himself. It's a platform for the United States to project power onto the world. And, Europe is part of that platform that the United States can step on. And, but we're getting to a point where the United States is like, I don't want NATO. It's like, you're the one that, who it benefits the most. So if you're saying you don't want NATO, fine. Who else is going to care if you don't care? And I think NATO is also interesting in the sense of when it was created, it was also very much created keeping in mind that Germany, even if it was reunified, could potentially, start start have, relationships with the Soviet Union. And so France was also very much, pro creating NATO in order to keep Germany in check. And so, I mean, it's such an insane history of all of these like European ruling countries that have like very deep histories with like being imperialist, with being just completely, dominating of other people and other countries. Now being like, well, if you don't want to go dominate people and dominate other countries and just massacre entire populations, then, well, I don't want to be in an alliance with you. I don't want to be in NATO with you. Like that's where we're at. God damn, they flailing, truly flailing. I don't know if I had another. Yeah, we can watch this one about Spain closing airspace. It's part of the story.
This is yet another strong position from the Spanish government since the beginning of the war in the Middle East. Spain is rejecting all flights involved in actions related to the operation in Iran, including refueling aircraft. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez reiterated his views in front of Parliament.
It hasn't been easy, but I believe that we've done so because this is allowed by the bilateral agreement and because we're a sovereign country that does not wish to take part in illegal wars.
This is a step further from the decision last week to deny the United States the use of Rota and Moron bases for operations involved in Iran. Sanchez's government has strongly condemned the US and Israeli attacks on Iran, describing them as reckless and illegal. Spanish Defense Minister emphasized this decision.
The airspace is not to be used to go to war against something we're totally opposed to, something we do not believe in, which we consider to be profoundly illegal and profoundly unjust.
The closure forces military planes to bypass Spain en route to their targets in the Middle East, but it does not apply to emergency situations. President Donald Trump previously threatened to cut trade with...
God damn, what are you doing with his hair? That's a new look. I mean, I get it. I mean, I change my hairstyle every week, so I get it. He's trying a little new comb-over situation. God.
Madrid for denying the US really access to jointly held bases during the war.
Right, so, a little bit of pushback here and there. But this one, I don't know. I thought this was interesting. DW back at it again with their little German states media. But the title is really funny. Do the Spanish expect this decision to have any impact on the war in Iran? It's an interesting question. Like, is that the important part here? Like, is that the angle we are gonna take on this story? Like, but is it gonna have an impact? Like, and I don't want to hide. Like, this is not like some person that doesn't know how to be a journalist, right? These are media people. These are journalists who are coming up with these headlines or whatever. And I just think it's like, it's a crazy sentence. I don't know. I feel like even just changing it to like, does the United States and Israel expect to have support much longer for their illegal war in Iran? Now, isn't that an interesting little swapperoo? Kind of angling the perspective towards like, who are the perpetrators, what is, the thing that they are doing that is illegal, and maybe if you want to add a little spice at the end, Spain and other countries joining calls to stop the war, something like that. But this is a crazy media title. I don't know, guys. I don't feel like this really invites us to examine the situation a little deeper than just to ask if there is going to be any impact with this stupid little decision. Stupid Spain. Do they think there's going to be an impact? I don't know. Let's just see what they're going to say. Maybe they're going to blow my mind with the analysis.
Spain has closed its airspace to U.S. warplanes involved in attacks on Iran. It's another escalation in the widening rift between Madrid and Washington. Spain has been Europe's most vocal opponent of the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez calling the campaign reckless and illegal. His government had already barred the U.S. from using their two jointly operated bases in Spain U.S. President Trump has sharply criticized Spain's stance on the war in Iran, even threatening to fully cut trade ties with the country. On Monday, the White House said that it didn't need Madrid's help for its operation in Iran. Earlier, Spain's defense minister outlined the reasons for this latest decision.
From the very beginning, it was made absolutely clear to the U.S. military and U.S. forces that the use of military bases is not authorized, nor, of course, is the use of Spanish airspace for any operations relating to the war in Iran. It shouldn't be used to go to war, one which we are totally opposed to, that we don't believe in, and that we consider to be profoundly illegal and unjust.
All right, I'm joined now by our correspondent in Barcelona, Nicole Riss. Nicole, this decision, it's getting a lot of headlines, but it's probably not a big surprise.
It looks so weird.
From where you are, is it?
Now it looks worse. Guys, can we get a better satellite connection? What is happening?
It is not a big surprise here in Spain.
I'm sorry. I should have laughed, but this is hilarious. This is what, a state media, and they... whatever, man. Let's go back a little.
Surprise from where you are, is it?
It is not a big surprise here in Spain because this is the stance that the country has been taking for weeks now. It's a strong position from the government, and it's basically just saying Spain is not willing to be part in this war in any form or way. We just heard Defense Minister Margarita Robles there. She also called on the UN to stop Israel and Hezbollah from continuing their fights. We also heard from Spain's economy minister and vice prime minister today, Carlos Cuerpo, who said that this war was initiated unilaterally and is against international law. So we see legal considerations in the Spanish government's position there. It's the line that Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has been holding up for long weeks now, making international headlines, as you just pointed out. But it also has a bit to do with domestic politics as well.
I wonder if I've ever walked here. I have been in Barcelona a lot of times. I feel like I could recognize this corner if I saw like a couple more restaurants. But anyway, my point, what I wanted to add is that, well, by the way, Barcelona is awesome. If you get a chance to visit, it's really cool. But don't be a shitty tourist, okay? Period. But I mean, yeah, I was kind of curious to see what was like gonna be the percentage of like Spanish people, you know, in support of Sanchez. Let's see, and who like supports, people support the war, like you know. So let's see. I don't know if I'll find it. Like, I just want to see Spanish people, like, I just want to see some polls, bro. Okay, this seems like it has some polling data. Let's see. Yeah. What the hell?
Spanish
Oh,
Prime
there you
Minister.
go. Yeah, so this was posted, let's say almost like a week ago, or like a week or longer. And by that point, I feel like we even have looked at statistics of this earlier. The government's position is widely shared across Spain, with 68% saying they were opposed to the war in a poll conducted. Oh, wait, that's Iraq, right? No, it's the Iran war. It is. Support for the war by the conservative. His reference to the Iraq may strike a chord with some Spanish voters. Support for the war by the conservative popular party at the time, in power at the time, which sent troops to Iraq, was widely unpopular and sparked mass protests. Some analysts say it paved the way for the Socialist Party to surprise win in March 2024 or 2004, days after the deadly jihadist bombing commuter. Okay. Majority of Spaniards, 53.2%, backed Sanchez's decision not to allow the U.S. to use the Rota naval base and the Maron air base for strikes against Iran, a poll published earlier this month in the daily newspaper El País, showed. So yeah, I think across the board, majority people don't support it. Some statements, polled statements more than others. But it's definitely a majority. And I mean, I guess I'm still not sure if it's like the Iraq war that they're specifically against. I guess whether it's the Iraq war or this war, 68% being against it is still a very large majority. That's more than 2/3 of the population. So yeah, let's keep watching.
Well, we have.
So yeah, I just wanted to say that I wish they talked about it a little bit more. What people are feeling about it, what the population is feeling, because it's not as if he's just like these decisions are coming out of thin air, right? These decisions are popularly supported, and this is a left wing, even if it's center left, it's a left leaning politician that is adequately equipped to deal with this. Because if it was like a populist, like far right candidate, they would just use this in this sentiment in nefarious ways. What's up, D-Money Industry? IShowSpeed deleted his YouTube channel. Say it ain't so. Oh no, that sucks, man.
Regional elections here in several regions next to.
So yeah, I don't know if they will talk about like some polls, but let's keep
We're heading
watching.
into general elections. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez wants to make sure that he wins again. He is making the strong man impression here on a foreign policy level, and critics also point out that this is obviously resonating with the electorate here in Spain, which is very anti-war. So they're trying to take, obviously, the stage as well for this reason.
Nicole, do the Spaniards then, do they expect this decision to have any impact on the war in Iran? And are they expecting the U.S. president to make good on his promise to cut economic ties with Spain?
So, I mean, a crazy question. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's a crazy, crazy approach to this. A crazy framing, because he's just really framing it as if like, what do they even think that's gonna have an effect? I'm adding a little bit of stink on it, but you could definitely approach it in a different way. But instead, it's kind of really picking at it, not framing it in the way that it should be, and is that it's a really popular move by a European leader in a continent where many political figures are in lockstep with the United States and Israel, both in the war in Iran and the genocide. And so it's no coincidence that, we see these very subtle smear campaigns and attacks against politicians making these decisions. Of course, DW always has to keep the, liberal, chill veneer, very calm, very just asking questions, very rational, but it's not, right? And so, and now even the question, about do they care that the United States President Donald Trump is going to cut economic ties with Spain? I don't know if he's going to add something to it, but again, Europe is one market. And so the idea that he would be able to target individual countries or individual nations' economies, even that's a pretty right-wing, like conservative, like far-right American talking point, because they want to break up Europe. They want to make sure that capitalism can, do its thing and exploit the European economy when it's separated instead of as a unified, stronger bloc. But let's see what they say.
Well, on the one hand, the impacts now, for example, for U.S. military operations are that there is yet another obstacle to operate in this war. They cannot use the airspace in Spain. They also cannot use the two military shared military bases here in Spain, which makes it a bit more complicated logistically. Anything that has to do with this war, like Spain is vetoing. So there's this, on the one side, this operation that is not going as smoothly. It makes flights maybe longer, routes longer, maybe also fuel usage higher. So this is what the military operations from the US side are looking at. And I think here among the population in Spain, there might not be a strong hope that this will have a major impact on the war that is going on. But I think many people are looking with great pride as well at these stances that the government is taking because very many people here don't believe in war. They're very anti-war.
What about the threat from U.S. President Trump to cut economic ties with Spain? I mean, is that being talked about there a lot in Spain? I mean, are people concerned about the impact of a decision like that?
Well, this is something that President Donald Trump had announced a few weeks back when Spain had said that they refused them to use their military bases here. It was very loud on the surface. In the background, though, everything seems to be normal. So this seems to be, at the moment, just a threat nobody is really talking about anymore because it has moved on. The discussion has moved on a bit. And also, Spain is part of the EU. So usually, economic things are negotiated as a bloc. It would have been very difficult to pull that one off, I think.
Okay.
Also, Spain is buying a lot of energy from the US, so for the latter, it wouldn't have been very good.
All right, our correspondent Nicole Riss with the latest from Barcelona.
Yeah, exactly. Long story short, he can't put individual or like specific sanctions on the individual nation of Spain's economy. And people just really support it. People, like, have you seen Spanish people on Twitter? The memes are going crazy. People love their fucking president. I'm living in Portugal. I'm a Dutch-Portuguese person living in Portugal. And I'm like, yeah, we speak Spanish in Portugal. Yeah, Portugal is just a province. Portugal is just a big province of Spain. Like, you know, people fucking love seeing their shit represented. I mean, look at Zoran. Look at Zach Polanski in the UK. This is what people want, right? And people don't want to be reminded necessarily constantly of like, oh, the left and the right and, you know, liberals and conservatives. People want to be reminded of, you know, things that they care about and that they see represented. And yeah, you have plenty of reactionary people. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, if you adequately speak to what people are going through, people's, you know, material conditions are worsening. They see endless money going to wars. They see death and destruction with their taxpayer money. People will have a response to that. And especially if you have these leaders who think they're untouchable. So let's see. And I mean, like I said, we are seeing Le Pen hammering Trump. We are seeing the AfD has called for U.S. troops to leave Germany. And Ugopnik has a really good comment to say about this. I've been screaming about this for years. If the left in Europe refuses to capitalize on American decline by pushing for decoupling from the US as a core foreign policy pitch on their agenda, then the right eventually will. It's a perfect popular argument to couple with class consciousness politics, European sovereignty, and an independent path. It ticks all the principled and practical boxes and will only grow in popularity. Again, I've also been saying this since I literally first started streaming practically a year ago, is that, like, I think one of my first stream, if not my first stream, was literally watching an interview with a Chinese official talking about how it is time for Europe to step into the light, to step out of the shadow of the United States, and to work with China as equals. Otherwise, we will become obsolete. We have a chance to accept Chinese investment and to have like a equal, pragmatic trade relationship, but we cannot do that if we keep our position as this like, to be colonized vassal state to the United States. We cannot do it if we don't have leadership that is adequately representing people's interests. So yeah, again, the leader of the biggest opposition party, Germany's biggest opposition party, the far-right AfD, is calling for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Germany. Although U.S. President Donald Trump himself has talked about this, it is unlikely to happen. It is absolutely humiliating that Europe's far-right is outpacing its center-left in the articulation of sovereign foreign policy. Exactly. And so, again, it is not to say that there aren't outliers in the left sphere. For example, Pedro Sanchez, Zach Polanski. And of course, there are many smaller parties or smaller voices that are very much from the start anti-war. But we are talking about the centrist, center-left political parties like the Social Democrats, you know, all of this stuff. Like, they are still too slow. And sometimes if they do say something, it is just fucking, you know, it's reactionary garbage. They just end up kind of agreeing with everything. They are agreeing with the fact that we need to militarize and we need to, yeah, yes, this is a war that, you know, Iran was doing this, that, and the other. So, you know, we do have to hold our elected officials responsible, and to, if they don't do something, then we, you know, like for example in the UK, Labour, clearly not an anti-war party. The only anti-war party is the Greens right now with Zach Belansky. And so, you know, people have to change and vote differently, because we need to have elected officials that, you know, respect people's interests. Okay. Ay. Yeah, so this we also already talked about. Yeah, let's move on. I mean, this was also kind of a funny little win from Spain. Just, you know, suffering from success, Spain. Spain posts its lowest public debt in 18 years while being the fastest growing major economy in EU. And I mean, hey, must I remind you guys of the banger Trump quote not too long ago where he was like, socialism, you know, doesn't work in theory, but it works in practice. So, hey, even if you're too stupid to understand socialist theory, it works both in practice and in theory. Yeah, so whereas the United States cannot stop suffering from, you know, deficit, it's like all conservatives love talking about, Spain is doing really not bad. Really not bad. Let's see. I think I want to move on to talking about the Israeli move to let's see. Yeah, I mean, I can just finish it off maybe talking about the UK. The United Kingdom is breaking up right under Labour's nose. It's over for the game's over for Great Britain. And what I specifically just want to talk about is also the address to the nation that happened simultaneously between the UK, Australian, and US leaders. They really were like, okay, boys, it's time for us to get together and to to calm the people down and to be like, okay, guys, hey, this is not in our interest. We don't like war, but get ready, because there's a little bit more struggle coming your way, my dear voters. And so Arnaud also put it very well, quoting one line in the video saying, making sure that we are prepared so that if the global situation gets worse and our fuel supplies are seriously disrupted, buckle up, folks. Okay, you know, this is not to say that it will happen, but it just means that these leaders are so, you know, they don't give a fuck about actually like changing course. They are so committed to the United States line that, you know, they will throw their whole constituency, their whole base of support under the bus and just be like, guys, buckle up. It might get worse, it might get better. Who's to say? The UK had a similar position while addressing the nation. Keir Starmer on Iran, this is not our war. We will not be drawn into the conflict. This is not in our national interest. Meanwhile, he has been in this war. He has been, you know, this isn't in, maybe not the national interest. He's right on that one. But it is in his interest and those that he serves. You know, the bourgeois state's interest, that it is. But in the national people's interest, it is not. So, yeah, let's be very clear about that. And I mean, yeah, Zach Belansky had a really good point against this to say, here's what Keir Starmer doesn't want you to know about the war on Iran.
Just over a month ago, the US and Israel launched an illegal and unprovoked attack on Iran. it's been an unmitigated disaster. Thousands dead, a region in chaos, and an energy shock that is rippling all around the world. Here at home, families are facing higher bills, higher inflation, and families who are already struggling are facing even more hardship. And here's what the government doesn't want to tell you. The UK is already involved in this war.
Exactly.
And Keir Starmer is trying to avoid any scrutiny over his and our government's role in it. When the US launched the strikes, just as when they attacked Venezuela, Keir Starmer was all but silent. Have you noticed recently? He's suddenly started to find his voice because he knows how much you oppose this war. Every day, US bombers are flying from UK bases, flying thousands of miles around the world to drop bombs on targets. We'll never know what those targets are or how many innocent civilians have been murdered. Make no mistake, those B-52s taking off from our soil make a lie of the claim that Keir Starmer says that we have no role in this war. We're propping up the United States. We're an accomplice in this conflict, and we don't need to be. Let's follow Spain's lead and stop the US using UK airspace. Let's make a plan, an actual long-term plan, to disentangle the UK from US for our national security. We can't and shouldn't rely on Donald Trump. And let's stop UK support for Israel too. Let's end our backing of the Middle East's only nuclear state and make it clear we oppose their warmongering too. We could stand on our own 2 feet, make us safer at home, and earn back our respect on the world stage. It's down to Keir Starmer. Are you willing to stand up to Donald Trump and take the action that most people in our country want? Or will you continue to bend to Trump's will, no matter what the cost for us at home? It's time to choose.
Hell yeah, dude. Guys, it's getting close. When was it again? May 7th? May 4th of May? May 7th or 4th of May? I don't remember. Is going to be a lot of the UK elections popping off. And guys, I'm scared. I want the Greens to win. No, I'm not scared. I'm actually pretty confident. Like, they're so competent. They're not really making any mistakes. They're really still, you know, foot on the pedal, foot on the gas, pedal to the metal. They are just going for it. And they're, you know, that's a good thing to see. Like, you cannot just, if you're actually trying to go for it, if you're actually trying to, you know, go up against reform, go up against labor, you need to have a really clear plan of action, a clear attack, because, you know, there's going to be plenty of attacks coming in. Actually, that's the next thing I have here. Nigel Farage, the demon himself, being asked if Reform UK is becoming a party of the old as youth support drops to 8% from the versus the 51% for the Green Party. And he was, and his response was like, Polanski is tapping into a university student, half indoctrinated youth who find Marxism very appealing. Right, I didn't know that UK was based like that, but that's based. But yeah, Zach Polanski, always a good straight response to it, directly responding to it. Across the country, people are seeing through Nigel Farage. He would have dragged us into this illegal and unpopular war. All our bills would have gone up even further under reform. Whether it's the North, East, or London, more and more people are supporting the Green Party. And I think that that's awesome. I mean, again, just like with Spain, you know, whenever there's this like people's interests, you know, leftist, progressive party and political figure gaining movement, gaining speed, you just start seeing all of the counterattacks coming into play. And the same here. So good on Zach for always, you know, not backing down and just standing firm and really sticking to the message, always coming back to it, and, you know, turning it around on them and you know, correctly showing what their position is in this. And then there was also some other stuff with UK and the fucking, what's his face, the former Al-Qaeda guy, Syrian president, going for a visit. But, you know, but that's fine for now. Let's move on. Let's see. yeah, I mean, the reason why I wanted to bring that up, because first he went to the UK, but then the Syrian president went to Germany as well. And then Merz was like, well, actually, now that you're here, actually, we're going to send, like, your people back home, because I've had enough of it. We're too racist now, so we already have to be on our best behavior with supporting Israel through it all. And now we cannot take care of immigrants. So we're going to deport them. We're going to do a little Trump. And we've talked about this in the previous stream. Actually, I don't think we did. I think I was going to get to it, but I didn't. But so the deportation hubs, the bureaucratic black zones, black holes, as far as like human rights abuses, are being propped up all over, the borders of Europe. And this is pretty much to send people back there so they can be deported. And this, again, like I said, this is really prone to human rights abuses. And it's just so disgusting that we are still on this conversation of, oh yes, we need to deport migrants because they're the ones ruining our society. Meanwhile, you have all of these motherfuckers like fucking Friedrich Merz, Keir Starmer, the actual baddies, the actual bad fucking villains in our story, constantly selling us out, whether that is for conscription or, being really good friends to Israel, or, just spending insane amounts on military, on militarization, or just arresting old people because they hold up a little sign that say that they oppose genocide and that they support Palestine action. But yeah, now Merz is saying 80% of Syrians should leave Germany in the next 3 years. Amid confusion and irritation, Merz said he was merely quoting a figure mentioned by Al-Shara, but Al-Shara said he did not use the figure and that it came from Merz. I don't know, man. What can you say about this? It's so incompetent. It's so embarrassing and incompetent that these are our leaders. Meanwhile, you see some European leaders being like, or the European Commission being like, people should work from home and drive and fly less, and EU countries should urgently roll out renewables, as it warned for a prolonged energy crisis as a result of the conflict in the Gulf. And this is the same commission who argued that it was imperative to scale back the EU sustainability regulatory framework, because green tape was supposedly killing European competitiveness. Oh God, man. Like, I wish I was like a Chinese person so I could laugh at the incompetence or something, but I can't, because these are my, elected officials and political representatives. So it just sucks to suck, I guess. It sucks to suck for real. No, but it's just like, guys, can we make a decision that actually benefits us? That actually has some long-term perspective here? I guess not. I guess we just have to be crawling around in the mud. So, I mean, this guy, last time we saw him, he was also saying some stupid shit. So, I guess he's back in action. Telling people to just work from home. Doesn't matter if you don't have a job that's where that's possible. Just work from home. Who gives a fuck? And we're definitely also not going to see any kind of support. Unless this is going to be like COVID levels of disruption to the economy. We'll have to see what's going to happen. He even say it here in a speech reminiscent of the COVID pandemic. Anyway, let's watch some clips, guys. I've been yapping so long. I guess this is part of the visit that we were just mentioning.
The Syrian president, Ahmed al-Shara, has pledged to work with Germany.
Former Al-Qaeda leader, might we add. It's crazy who Europe decides is a good guy and a bad guy whenever it suits them.
To enable more Syrians to return home and rebuild their country after.
I don't know, man. I feel like the framing here, we're gonna keep an eye on it, but something tells me that I don't know how voluntary I can. Listen, let's start it from the basic. No one wants to, forcibly leave their home country, right? Sure, you will have people that want to visit different countries, maybe work and live in different places, but no, majority population wants to just uproot their life and leave to a different place. But at some point, if people have been living in a country for a while, maybe they've had children, if they've built community in those places, maybe they like what they've built up there. In addition to that, they've contributed so much to that country's economy that they should be considered just a citizen and a great member, contributing member of society. But instead, you just constantly have these like reactionary, far right, or just like xenophobic and racist parties always using immigrants as this like scapegoat to falsely pin, society's woes on and pin people's frustration of the, deteriorating material conditions on. But it's literally not their fault. And so now we're seeing this like narrative being built up that we're just going to send them back. They can build up the country again, and under this Al-Qaeda leader, former Al-Qaeda leader that we used to be against, but now we're just inviting him in and being best buddies with him. But yeah, just go home, Syrians. I don't know if we will deport you, so let's just see if you guys will go nice and easy. Otherwise, we might have to deport you. We'll see.
Its devastating civil war. The pledge as he makes an historic visit to Berlin. Germany is home to the largest Syrian diaspora in the European Union, more than 1 million people, many of whom arrived during the peak of the migrant influx in 2015 to 2016. The German Chancellor himself, at the same time, has made a tougher immigration policy a priority since taking office last year. We're going to talk now to...
Yeah, so notice how this is not a situation of, we really want to step into a new light, a new era. We want to improve Syrian society. So we invite Syrian people to come back if they want. It's nothing like that. It's in the context of, we need to get rid of migrants. So it's not this like beautiful thing about, yes, we want Syrians to go back and rebuild Syria. No, it's, we have made people in Germany really mad about immigrants, and now we're going to throw that base a little bit of red meat, right? We're gonna deport some fucking super normal, nice Syrian families and their children, which maybe have been born here. We're gonna deport them, and who gives a fuck? We need to throw our base some red meat.
Rochelle Ferguson.
80% return is insane, by the way.
From our International Affairs Desk, who joins us here on set. Rochelle, lots of different things discussed in this visit.
I thought they were sitting really close next to each other, but it's not.
Key talking point, of course, is Germany's efforts for Syrian refugees to be able to return home.
Well, absolutely. You gave the figure there, Stuart. 1 million Syrians currently living in Germany, most of them arriving in 2011 when they fled the civil war. It's interesting, about 700,000 are considered asylum seekers, and this question of repatriation and how it's done by the German government has caused a lot of controversy within the German government. Now, according to the Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, there's no longer any issue. Ultimately, Syria, the situation there has fundamentally improved so that, refugees can now go back. He surprised reporters in that meeting with Ahmed al-Shara on Monday, saying that 80% should return home over the next 3 years. It's worth saying that within his own party, there's some discord about this. So the German foreign minister, for example, said, look, I visited Damascus a year ago. There's no possible way that people can live in a dignified manner there as things stand. Little details as well from the German Chancellor about how this is going to be done. It's worth saying that last December there were several repatriations made, but none of them really any kind of mass repatriation. So it still remains to be done to seen how...
It really echoes the the moments before Trump really started bringing down ICE on, just communities in the United States, when the questions that we were seeing on CNN, the reporting that we were hearing was like, well, but how will he do it? How will he do mass migration? And sometimes it's also not even the matter of the cranking up the numbers to insane amounts. That is even the scary part, but just the daylight terror that government officials, the government agents will inflict on people. I mean, we've seen what ICE does in these communities. Now, given the United States is a much more violent society in that way, with, you know, the presence of guns and things like this. But we have seen German police and how they respond to pro-Palestinian protesters. I feel like that's almost on par with the level of violence and suppression that we see in the United States without the guns. So is that what we can then expect in this like new era of deportation? Like they're going to take a playbook from what the United States did with ICE, and now they're going to do their own version of it, but without guns, but still inflicting the terror, doing kidnappings, all to appease a base which, you know, only, you know, doesn't that fundamentally believe in it. They only believe in it because the media keeps telling them that this is the solution, and the politicians keep telling them that this is the solution. And for the most part, if you would just poll people normally, they probably wouldn't care that much. They just want their own material conditions to improve. But if they're constantly being told that migrants are the issue, and then, oh, but now we can kick them out and then everything will go back to normal. Hell fucking no, man. Factories are still closing. Millions of people are still losing their job. That's not migrants doing that. That is Volkswagen CEOs. That's all of these like car industries leaders, these companies being like, well, we cannot take in the same amount of profit anymore because, well, China is actually being competitive. So we're going to pivot, or we're going to fire some people. We're going to change over to weapons manufacturing. And that's hopefully going to line our pockets yet again. And so those are the actual villains ruining your society, especially because they then dodge all of the taxes and nothing, you know, all of their insane profits don't even go back into German society. But instead, we're talking about migrants, right? We're talking about as if migrants and repatriation of migrants and fucking deporting migrants is any kind of solution to people's problems. It's truly not.
This will be done. Mert's government, as you mentioned, they're taking this tougher stance. The context of this is, of course, the anti-immigration AfD party is making serious gains. Their popularity is...
And this is what we mean, right? I hate to pause it again, but it's just so much to add. Like, she's bringing up that the AfD party, very similar to the United States, how you have, like, the Republicans being really pro-immigration. You cannot, as the Democratic Party, then show up to the party late and then offer people deportation light. No, dude. Like, the conservatives already got, you know, Republicans already got the we are horrible, xenophobic, racist people that want to deport other human beings. They already got that shtick, right? You have to actually stand for something that is the truth, and that is also representative of what would actually improve people's lives. And so the fact that, yeah, you have this really far-right party being super fucking insane, fucking mental illness level of like racist and shit and blaming migrants. As a centrist party, I mean, of course a centrist party would do it. As a center-right party, you cannot be like, okay, well, we're going to do the same thing. I guess we just got to do the same thing. We also got to offer people deportation. We got to offer the voters, we're going to tell the voters that deportation is a solution. No, it's just not. And it's just not going to get you more support because people are just going to see that you're now joining the party late and they're just going to go with the guys that were saying it originally.
Is surging. The party is doubling its vote share. And of course, this comes within the wider European context of European governments trying to tackle the issue of migration with a firmer stance.
Bearing everything in mind that you just said there, Rochelle, I mean, what's in the visit for Damascus then?
Well, there's a lot there for Damascus. Damascus knows very clearly that not only is Berlin a political gateway, but it's also a clearly economic gateway. Of course, Europe's largest economy there. It is, the place to be ultimately if you want any projects financed within Syria, particularly looking at construction. Ahmed al-Shara, during that meeting yesterday, spoke about the number of investment opportunities in Syria. Energy, of course, is a big sector for Syria. It has the capacity, the country, to increase its oil and gas production. That, of course, would be critical for stability and construction. Not to mention that, think of the images that we've seen of, devastated cities in Syria, efforts to rehabilitate them, housing projects, and not to mention developing institutions which are there to foster bilateral relations. So all of that is on the table for Damascus. Ahmed al-Shara, the interim leader of the country, will know very clearly that without billions of dollars, these reconstruction projects simply will not happen.
Finally, Rashad, let's look at the wider picture. It does come, this visit, doesn't it? A bit of a broader shift in relations between Damascus and other European countries as well, the whole of Europe, after years of isolation. It's not been without controversy, though, has it?
Well, no, absolutely. There were a number of political observers who were quite critical of the fact that Germany had decided to receive Syria's interim president. Opponents saying, the German government shouldn't have rolled out the red carpet. Of course, Shara accused of serious human rights violations. That was before the ousting of Bashar al-Assad. He was previously at the command of the Nusra Front, which was, of course, allied to Al-Qaeda. Think back to 2024, a $10 million reward for who is now known as Ahmed al-Shara, was put in place by the United States. They since rescinded that. So a lot of questions over the profile that's been chosen. It's worth saying, though, that Germany isn't the first country to receive Syria's interim president. France, he's been here and visited Emmanuel Macron. He's been to Russia. He's also spent some time with Donald Trump at the White House. So this is, the profile that has been chosen in terms of, relations or communication with the West. It's worth saying there is ongoing sectarian violence in the country. Minority groups have been specifically stressing that there need to be guarantees in place if Syrian refugees living in Germany are expected to go home. So much more to be discussed on this issue.
Okay. Yeah, I think I just want to move on to the death penalty decision by Israel, and we're just going to dive into that because that is also just such a horrible development. A lot of condemnations we've seen coming out. Israel approves death penalty law, but only for Palestinians. Far-right Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir toasted the legislation with champagne. And this is just something that is... It is horrible how little movement European leaders have made. Again, exceptions not included. Again, like Sanchez and like Zach Polanski. But it is insane how little movement a majority of European leaders have shown in doing anything. It's so fucking pathetic. I wish I could truly, do this full time so I could go into detail. Every time we see incompetence and every time, a different decision could easily have been made that would have saved the life of Palestinians, that would have improved our lives. We need to understand how this, we need to understand how this happening to Palestinians, it hurts Palestinians, but this is not happening in a vacuum. This is part of a global level of oppression, repression, and abuse. This is happening to Palestinians. This, abuse happens against pro-Palestinian demonstrators in Germany. And this is not even to mention the stories that don't make it to the news that European money is involved in contributing to the death of innocent people, whether that is in Sudan. We are directly involved in this, whether we like it or not. And it is therefore crucial that we bring this to light, so that we can really understand who are the leaders that continue to support this and that they need to go. We need to have different people in power because the system that allows this is not okay, right? This is not something like we have an entire global system that builds up to this. This is part of American foreign policy. This is part of what Europe wants as well. Like, that's not okay, and that's not what most people want, you know? Of course, like, freaks in Israeli society are going to be freaks and are going to be supportive of this, but this is, you know, most other people who still have their sanity and sense of humanity know that this is wrong on so many levels. So, yeah, let's just watch the clips that I have for this, and, you know, we'll go through it step by step.
Nearly 20 years ago, Itamar Ben-Gvir was convicted of inciting anti-Palestinian racism. Now his critics say he's helped enshrine it in law, pushing through a death penalty bill that will apply almost by definition only to Palestinians. The Prime Minister who brought him into government and voted for his bill, unmoved as it passed. Afterwards, a triumphal toast to a policy so central to Ben-Gvir's politics, he wears a noose on his lapel.
We, in our country with our sovereignty, will protect our citizens. And a terrorist who goes out to kill should know he will go up to the gallows.
10 days ago in the northern West Bank, the Israeli settler Yehuda Sherman was killed in a collision, the other car driven by a Palestinian man. He's now in detention, suspected of a deliberate terrorist act, bound for military court. It is this kind of case that could now attract a default death sentence, options for appeal closed off. The case already the trigger for one of the worst spasms of settler violence against Palestinians in a recent surge of what many also call terrorism. The prosecutions of settlers for terrorist offences are vanishingly small, and even when they happen, they come under Israeli civil law. Here, in the occupied West Bank, Palestinians are tried in military courts with conviction rates of more than 96%. Human rights lawyer Sahar Francis has for years campaigned against the system.
In reality, they don't need this law. On daily basis, settlers and soldiers are killing Palestinians on the Palestinian villages and towns. For Palestinians, this is a very powerful moment of the losing hope in the whole system of the UN and international law.
Protests against the law in the West Bank today, but it won't only apply to Palestinians here and in Gaza.
What's up? Okay, I mean, technically, ben ik nu aan het streamen. Technically, I'm streaming. I should say it in English. But I was like, I might as well pick up. What's up? How you doing? Guys, I'm talking to Tara, good friend of mine.
I don't want to interrupt your midstream.
That's okay. I guess we can also talk later. I was just like, hey, if you have some, you know, bangers to say, some news commentary. I mean, on a more serious note, I was talking about the, I mean, in Israel, what's been happening about the new death penalty that they're, oh, I think the connection dropped for a second. Can you still hear me? Oh, I don't think it's not working. Guys, give me a second. But anyway, that was my friend Tara. I did not introduce her at all, but she's a good friend of mine. She's a Dutch person. I got to know her in the Netherlands, and she came to a lot of protests with me, and she's also like a student organizer. She organizes a lot for like Palestinian activism and things like that. So, you know, she's really cool. And I've been wanting to get her on stream because I would love to, you know, interview her, get her perspective about, you know, student movements, pro-Palestinian student movements in the Netherlands. But it hasn't worked out yet. But yeah, I still want to get her on the broadcast one day. I was like, hey, might as well. She tried to call me now because we've been trying to catch each other. But, you know, it didn't work out, I guess. But it's okay. We'll invite her on the broadcast another day. Let's get back to the story.
Gaza, Israelis can also be sentenced to death for terrorist acts that negate the state of Israel. The only logical convictions, though, under those terms, likely to be Palestinian citizens of Israel.
It's so very intentionally designed to affect only one group.
Karen Saar belongs to a campaign group appealing to get the law struck down in the Supreme Court. There's long been a debate about the way that Israel defines itself as a Jewish and a democratic state, with many arguing those two things are in collision, because if you prioritize one class of people, how can you truly call yourself democratic?
It is not Jewish. The Jewish tradition values life.
God, it's so good to see media adequately spending time on separating Zionism from the Jewish identity, because Israel thrives on confusing those two, and to confuse anti-Zionist criticism with anti-Semitic attacks. Like, you know, anyone that has like a completely logical, truthful criticism of Israel, they get labeled anti-Semitic. And that's insane, because, you know, there's plenty of Jewish people who are anti-Zionist because they recognize that Israel is weaponizing Jewish identity and, you know, historic Jewish suffering to do war crimes and to do these things at the behest of like American imperialism. So, you know, it's good that we're spending a little bit of time separating the two, coming from a Jewish person, and hopefully also going into what the Palestinian people's experiences is. Because, yeah, it is very difficult to get into the details of all of this, because Israel proclaims itself to be like a Jewish state. And so Jewish Israelis are elevated above, you know, it's a Jewish supremacist nation state in that way. It's apartheid regime, where it separates, you know, Arabs and Muslims from Israelis and Jewish Israelis, and even specifically white Jewish Israelis, because you also have, for example, Ethiopian Jewish people, and they do not get the same type of elevated treatment. They also get suppressed in a lot of ways. And so it is important to separate those two things, and to really dive into how all the ways in which, you know, Israel is not a democratic society, because it is, it is supremacist.
Does not celebrate death. It is not Jewish. I mean, the whole debate of whether it's Jewish or democratic, I think it doesn't even apply here.
Shalom.
Ben-Gvir, leader of the Jewish Power Party, already putting out robocalls in this election year saying he delivered on his promise, finding favor with at least one Jewish Power voter.
I'm very happy. Finally, there's a law that's a deterrent against Palestinian terrorism. It should have been here a long time ago.
It's a very shameful law, and it's very shameful for us as Israelis, as Jews.
It's very clear cut as to who the law applies to and to whom it doesn't. So in this case, it seems kind of like a no-brainer that this won't go past the Supreme Court, and I think those pushing the law know that.
But many on the Israeli left aren't taking that for granted, protesting outside Parliament today as they campaign for this law to be overturned. Fresh divisions at home, even as Israel wages war abroad.
Harry Fawcett with that report. Well, earlier...
shout out to anti-Zionist, you know, people living in Israel. Like, 'cause I can imagine that maybe you were born there, or your parents move there, or maybe later in life you see the fucking light and you just kind of start to deprogram and undo all of the fucking decades of brainwashing that you've been put through, and they start protesting because it's not easy. Like, I mean, it's not, in other societies at least it's a little less, like, every Western society like this has a lot of brainwashing happening, but it's just, in Israel, it's on next level shit, man. It's so, like, additionally violent in Israel. And it's also just, it's so ostracizing when you refuse to kind of go along with that. And of course, people are few and far between that are of that position. So, shout out to them. Yeah.
I spoke to Michael Svard, who's an Israeli human rights lawyer, and asked him why Israel has approved this law.
Also, when they said West Bank, I genuinely thought they would be interviewing more Palestinians. The hell? This is so far just, Jewish Israeli people.
It hasn't executed anyone since 1962.
This is a very sad for anyone who's a supporter of human rights in Israel, because the current law not only reignites the application of the death penalty, but it also, which is barbaric in and of itself, but it also does it in the most despicable way.
So discriminatory on purpose, you're saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. The purpose was to make sure that Jewish terrorists, Israeli terrorists, would not be affected by this law.
And the scenes in the Knesset when the law passed were quite remarkable, weren't they? Ben-Gvir, the security minister who's been driving this law, trying to celebrate, I don't know whether it was a bottle of champagne or something, then having a drink afterwards in celebration. I mean, what does Israeli society make of those scenes?
The Israeli society has gone through a lot in recent decades, and it suffered a lot, and it suffered terrorism, and it suffered the terrible massacre of October 7th. And there were leaders that exploited the understandable Israeli fear and created a process of complete dehumanization of Palestinians, denied humanitarian aid from 2.3 million people who actually starved the society, is the same society that now is, some of it, or at least part of it, is cheering the idea of the return of the death penalty and the galleys. Now, I don't think that's the majority. I don't think so. But definitely, these government supporters are very happy.
But it is the majority in the Knesset, and you've got a system of pure proportional representation. It is perhaps the majority of the country, too.
The majority cannot do whatever it wants. And this law is an affront not only...
Hey, what's up, Louis Taken? Thank you for joining the chat. How you doing? You just joined us. We were just at the beginning of talking about the new death penalty law that is trying to be passed in Israel. And I mean, while I was watching this video, it's pretty decent, but I thought it would also focus a bit more on the Palestinian perspective. So far, it has mostly focused on Jewish-Israeli perspective, which is partially good because you do see a lot of the like kind of places where people try to again do their part to separate Zionism from Judaism and to just kind of resist the government. But as we know, Israeli society in general is pretty supportive of these measures. There's a lot of brainwashing that happens. But yeah, next up, I would definitely want to move on to some other reporting that kind of focuses more on like the Palestinian experience. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. In any case, thank you for joining. Also, you just missed it, but Tara called me. She was calling me probably just to talk, and I was like, oh, I should pick up. But then we didn't connect, and I was like, oh, I'm streaming right now, unless you want to join. And she was like, oh, well, maybe. And then I just called her again, and I was trying to talk to her on stream, but then the connection dropped, so it wasn't really working out. But we're gonna try to set something up where Tara can join the stream, because I've explained to the viewers that Tara is a good friend of mine. She's from the Netherlands. She's doing a study abroad right now, so she's not in the Netherlands, but she's from the Netherlands, and she does some student pro-Palestinian organizing. So yeah, I thought that would be a pretty cool guest to bring on the stream and just talk about some politics really, and some planning, and what are people on the ground experiencing there. But yeah, that's for another time. For now, let's get back to this story. Really brainwashed society, absolutely. And I mean, I was saying that, hey, if you can grow up in a society like that, either if you're born there or your parents moved there, or you're even at a later age and you can figure out a way to kind of deprogram and deconstruct and become anti-Zionist and resist against this like insane levels of brainwashing. I mean, hey, shout out to those people. Those people, unfortunately, are not that many, but still, those exist, and they are my comrades in that regard, and I wish them lots of good luck. Because in that kind of society, if you stand up against stuff like that, you are so quickly so ostracized, let alone even that you have to go to jail because you don't want to do the military service. So yeah, just on so many levels.
Only to the idea of the rule of law.
And people are actually, even though you have like free healthcare and free education because the United States, is responsible for that part, the society is still very tough on people, like as far as like you have to work pretty hard, and otherwise you pretty much just are in a way forced to join the military because that's the only thing that pays well. It's like a weird thing. We were actually watching a video about it on Saturday, recommended by Mr. Nesty, Mr. Linton. But yeah, it's a good video. We're going to watch the second part this Saturday. Anyway, like I said, back to the video.
But also it is a multi-dimensional breach of international law.
Is it possible the Supreme Court will try and overturn this?
2 petitions have already been filed with the Israeli Supreme Court. I think the court is in a difficult position here, in a bind, because legally speaking, it has to revoke this law. It just has to. And to be honest, I think that's a big test for the court, for its credibility and for its name as a professional and independent court.
And I guess also a test for Israel as the kind of country it wants to be. I mean, I've been going to Israel on and off for years, and Israel has always had this sense of itself, of being different, of being a democracy, having the rule of law, freedom of the press, different to just about every other country in a rough neighborhood.
Okay, buddy, relax. What do you mean democracy while they're actively, segregating people and like what? God, I was a little bit on board with this reporting, but this is like it's still in a way very much like, I mean, it's the kind of reporting where it's like, guys, we want to be your friend, we want to be your best friend so bad, but I cannot keep showing up in public with you if you keep doing this shit. So I thought you wanted to be a democracy, unlike those bastards around you, those nasty Muslims. I'm pretty sure you can't even, like, another funny thing is, like, Israel loves to pretend like it's, oh, you can be gay in Israel, you can, you can't be gay in all those other, hating countries, queer people hating countries around us. But I'm pretty sure you can't even get married as a gay person in Israel. So, like, does gay marriage exist? Does gay marriage exist in Israel? Marriage in Israel is regulated by the religious courts of recognized confessional mutinies or communities, none of which perform interfaith or same-sex marriage. So you can't even, like, Israel loves to pretend like it's the gay destination, but you can't even get married as a gay person in Israel, first of all. And in addition to that, it's also very segregated between, like, if you're a Palestinian, you can't marry an Israeli Jew, Jewish Israeli person. Like, there's all of these, like, incredibly crazy ass, like, fucking American slavery era segregation stuff happening. So, okay, buddy, Israel being a little democracy, I don't know about all of that. So,
absolutely. But this is what Israelis tell me, and they say on the left they're more disillusioned, on the right that's what they say. Does this law signal that you've just become part of a very rough neighborhood, basically?
Well, yeah, I think this law is probably the peak of a process we've seen in other actions by the government and by the Israeli legislator of stopping care about being seen as a liberal democracy. It's not a process that Israel is the only one in. I mean, populist regimes all around the world pop up.
Your big friend in America is going through a similar process.
Yeah, so yeah, we in some way, there are many things.
Okay, well, let's move on, because they're just yapping about, oh no, why can't Israel just go back to being a liberal democracy? Well, they weren't. They were never that in the first place. Let's keep watching the reporting, but by France 24.
International backlash is mounting over Israel's approval of legislation mandating the death penalty for West Bank Palestinians who were convicted on terror charges for deadly attacks.
And keep in mind, by the way, which, you know, the Palestinians charged with terrorism, it can literally be anyone. It can be children, like all kinds of people get charged with terrorism for just, you know, throwing a rock, being in the wrong place, wrong time. Like it, I mean, we just, like, what is it, 2 weeks ago, saw reporting coming out of a Palestinian father that has been arrested, and the baby as well, and that the baby was used in, the baby was tortured in order to be used to try and get confessions from the father. And this was all because they were just walking a little bit too close to the yellow line, the like pretty much invisible yellow line, like the imaginary yellow line. And the baby got examined by a doctor, and he determined that the baby was probably in multiple places, got a cigarette burned on him, and you know, it's fucking insane. So that just shows you they are just creating, you know, a judicial thing, a judicial structure to, you know, exercise the death penalty on Palestinian terrorists, but they have complete liberty at determining who is considered a terrorist. So yeah, I don't know, I guess I can say it because I'm just in the mood, but what a disgusting people in society. I mean, this is what happens when, you know, you dehumanize people like the Palestinians, when a country like the United States is so invested in creating something like Israel, because this is not just happening out of nowhere. I mean, Joe Biden said it himself, like, Israel is the best investment they ever did. If there wasn't an Israel, they would have to create an Israel. So how do you create an Israel? Well, you have to create a society that is extremely racist, is extremely, like, you know, that's the same ways in which South Africa was in apartheid. You had these like white, you know, Dutch imperialists or all these other, you know, white colonizers. You just have to, from education, from a brainwashing level, get them to that point. And then it's very scary to see people just be so violent and completely, you know, seemingly void of humanity. But, you know, they're not the center focus. It is, at the end of the day, the victims that we ought to listen to and support, and the survivors.
The passage of the bill Monday marked the culmination of a years-long drive by the far right to escalate punishment for Palestinians convicted of nationalistic offences against Israelis. Aside from rights groups, the law is attracting criticism internationally. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez called it one step closer to apartheid, and the European Union said it was a clear step backwards. Charlotte Hughes has more on the law.
It's a move that prompted applause from some in the Knesset, but one that has also drawn international criticism. On Monday, Israel's parliament approved legislation that would make the death penalty the default sentence for Palestinians convicted in military courts of deadly attacks.
Jesus Christ, the default punishment. And again, like they said earlier, in military courts, the rate of conviction is like, what, 94%? It's over 90%. So it's just so disgusting.
Far-right lawmaker Limor Sonhomele, who survived an attack by Palestinian gunmen in which her husband was killed, hailed the bill.
This law is the most moral expression of a nation that wants life. It establishes a direct and clear equation.
A nation that wants life, and meanwhile she is wearing a literal pin of a noose that goes around, a rope that goes around someone's neck. She's like, all I want is, I want to live in a society. Hamas, they're terrorists, and we have to live in a society of life. And so the direct solution for that is I will wear a little pin of a noose, of a rope that goes around someone's neck. Yes, clearly. And I'm so certain that she's either a settler or she's probably part of a settler community who are so known for being some of the most violent, like direct instigators of violence against Palestinian people just living normally on their land. So yeah, we have to just sit here and listen to these ultimate fucking brutality inflicting people pretending to be victims and celebrate these like insane legislations.
Whoever decides to murder Jews just because they are Jews is doomed to die.
The bill includes provisions requiring an execution by hanging within 90 days of sentencing, with a possible delay of up to 180 days. In theory, Jewish Israelis could also be sentenced to death under the law. However, this would be extremely unlikely due to its wording, since it states that the sentence should be carried out when the intention of the attack is to, quote, negate the existence of the State of Israel. Several European countries, including the UK, France and Germany, have warned it risks undermining, quote, democratic principles. Opposition lawmakers...
Yeah, leave it to fucking Germany, France and the UK to be like, guys, you can't, you can't convince people that you're a democracy if you do this. Come on, Israel, stop. I want to be your friend. Stop. So pathetic, man. Jesus Christ. And it's insane that they're doing this in an era where people are so overwhelmingly getting convinced of the fact that Israel is, committing a genocide, that what they're doing against Palestinians is horrible. And instead of being like, you know what, this is like the popular position, let us maybe listen to what people want us to, make policy for. And let's stop, supporting a country which everyone is against. And then what it comes down to is, you always will have left-wing political figures correctly pointing to the right things and the right perpetrators, but then they will be, closed out of mass media and everything like that. And then it will come down to the far right once it becomes a popular enough position by the work of left-wing figures, by left-wing organizers, left-wing political figures. Once it becomes a popular enough position, the far right is like, ooh, well, don't mind if I do. I will also get into this anti-war, anti-Israel, movement. But instead of being, anti-Zionist, they will do it in an anti-Semitic way. We see this all the time. The far right is always going to be anti-Semitic. They are going to come at it from a weirdly religious angle. I mean, look at Tucker Carlson. He is anti-Israel, he's anti-Zionist, but for him it's like a Christian thing, and he is still very far right. Like, he doesn't necessarily care to stop wars or to improve people's lives. No, he just wants to pick apart the popular position so that he can be an opportunist, gain a little bit of power, and then at the end of the day he serves the same masters that are gonna pick apart society and exploit it even further. So, just as usual, incredibly disappointing from many of these European countries.
Warned it risks undermining, quote, democratic principles. Opposition lawmaker Yair Lapid is also among those who have denounced the law.
We are not like Hamas. We are the opposite of Hamas. We did not come to the Middle East to adopt Sharia law. We did not establish a Jewish state to adopt...
Voting Israeli Knesset members try not to be racist and Islamophobic challenge. failed as usual. Like, god damn, these people cannot, like, this is why it's so tricky, I think, to really be like a so-called liberal or a progressive and pretend that Israel is like a progressive society, because even when they're kind of trying to go against the law that is like a racist death penalty law, even when they're trying to go against that, they still have to be like, we are not like those filthy Muslims. We are different than those Arabs. We're supposed to be better than this. We're not Sharia law. No, you're actually, I feel like at this point you're worse. I don't think we should be comparing these things, because what you're doing is it's its own thing, right? It exists in a system, exists in a context to other things. But why are we bringing Sharia law into this? Why are we bringing the Middle East into this? Fucking horrible, man. Anyway, let's just finish this.
Adopt the moral standards of radical Islam.
The Association for Civil Rights in Israel has lodged an appeal against the legislation with Israel's Supreme Court.
For more analysis on this story, we can welcome Bentzi Sikora, Policy Director at the Zulat Institute for Equality and Human Rights. Thank you very much for your time with us on France 24. I'd like to start by asking what your reaction is to the passing of this law.
Also, maybe I will stop relatively soon streaming, because I have some family that's coming back home, so I don't want to be streaming in the living room where they will probably also want to be. So yeah, we're gonna just finish this story, and that will be it for today, guys.
It's heartbreaking. It's one of the saddest days I think I've experienced in a long time, and it's been a rough few years here. The bill that passed is one of the single worst pieces of legislation that's ever passed through Israeli parliament, because, as you explained, it's just so blatantly racist. But we're also not giving up hope. We're already in the process. You mentioned there's already been an appeal that's been submitted to the Supreme Court. We're in the process of submitting our own appeal. And Israeli society has proven that it's willing to fight for the court. It's maintained the court. It's fought to keep the courts alive and the judicial system alive, and we're going to stop the law from taking hold. We're confident that the Supreme Court will shoot this down, because, like we said, it's so blatantly unconstitutional.
So then, given the likelihood that the Supreme Court will strike it down, why do you think that this law has passed now, and what do you think the goal is behind this legislation?
This bill has been floated around on the fringes of the populist far right, led by the blatant racist Itamar Ben-Gvir for many, many years. It's never really gotten traction. They saw political opportunity following October 7th, following the 900 days of war. Since then, Israeli society is exhausted and deeply, deeply traumatized, and they saw an opportunity to pass it. But it's an attempt for them to advance their disgusting political ideology, and he sort of wins either way, right? Either he's able to pass and advance his despicable ideology, or he gets shot down and they get to attack the Supreme Court again. So for him, this is purely politics. We even know from speaking to other members in the coalition leading up to the bill that they were ashamed of having to vote for this. They don't support it. They're hoping the bill gets shot down. But it's a cheap political ploy driven by a small minority within this country that's taken our entire political system, hijacked it. But it doesn't represent the majority of the Knesset, the majority of the country. And
yeah, man, I don't know. At some point, it's like I don't know, trying to convince people that it's trying to convince people like, guys, Nazi Germany, not every German supported Hitler's stuff. Guys, I promise. Yeah, it's like the majority, and like everyone was drinking champagne at the thought of executing these like people, but not everyone thinks about it. Like, and I'm sure that's the case. But like we just saw, the main opposition, like his whole spiel is that, guys, we shouldn't do this. We're not like those filthy Arabs. We're not like Hamas. Like, even the opposition is still very racist and right wing and like Palestinian resistance to Israeli apartheid, by the way, and Israeli genocide. So I don't know if it really matters if there's a majority that is not exactly this supportive of it, but they still support it one way or the other.
Political points, but it's not. But we're doing everything we can, and we're confident that it's not going to remain.
On what grounds might the Supreme Court strike it down?
Again, like we said, it's so blatantly unconstitutional. You mentioned it before. The fact that it's de facto what it does is it differentiates between Arab and Jewish terrorists. And again, we obviously are against the death penalty categorically. We believe that it's inherently immoral. But even if you disagree on that, the fact that it differentiates by blood is just, it's not something that any democratic country can accept. And Israel still remains a democracy despite the best efforts of members of Knesset like Itamar Ben-Gvir. So
It's not
it
like,
doesn't
guys,
hold up to Israel.
can we stop calling Israel a democracy? Like, we need to get real with it. Like, I don't think it's like useful to call Israel, to like really like cling on to Israel being a democracy. Like, you have systematically a group of people whose territory is being shrunk. You have, you know, people that just systematically, like, in law have less rights. They, you know, it's not a democracy. And I don't think we should give a fuck about if it's a democracy. Like, we should focus on the fact that they're committing a genocide, that there are people, you know, now potentially also being put under this death penalty just for being Palestinian. Like, I don't think we should be defending, oh, but guys, I promise it's a democracy. Don't listen to, like, okay, when is it not going to be a democracy? Like, when is it gonna finally, we're gonna recognize that Israel's not a democracy? Israel is a fucking United States unsinkable aircraft carrier. That's what it is. I don't understand why we're doing this, like, propaganda, or not propaganda. We're doing this, like, rebranding to, like, really, I mean, he has a literal fucking pride flag. You don't have same sex, you can't get married as a same sex couple. And if you're really going to the definition of democracy and the fact that, you know, representational politics, people can vote, you know, Palestinians are very much excluded from politics. Like, what are you talking about? It's a democracy. Sorry, I just had to rant about that because it's just insane. Like, it's something that keeps coming back. Like, yes, we are critical of Israel, blah, 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 but it's still democracy. Oh, we're not all like this. Let it go, man.
Constitutional values. It also, additionally, it tries to legislate within the West Bank, which again is not under Israeli sovereignty as much as Itamar Ben-Gvir may like it to be that way. So they don't have the jurisdiction there. The law, so it's going to fall on so many different issues. Also, like you mentioned, the 90 days that it has to be acted upon, and the fact that there's such a narrow clemency options just means that it doesn't hold up to the status and the standards that we have in Israel.
You referred to this earlier on. The Israeli government has been trying to reform the judiciary for the past several years, and the Supreme Court is seen as kind of the cornerstone of Israeli democracy. And so you said that if this bill is struck down, we can expect accusations of bias.
Okay, let's see if we have anything else to watch. I think, honestly, let's see what else I had here. Yeah, I mean, of course, leave it to someone like Zach Polanski, which I said is like the outlier in European leaders' responses. When this was reported, breaking Israel's parliament has officially passed a law imposing the death penalty by hanging for Palestinian detainees in military courts, which, reminder, have a higher than 90% conviction rate against these Palestinians. Zach Polanski responded to this by saying, "This is apartheid. It is morally disgusting, and it comes at the same time as Israel is committing an ongoing genocide. To see the Labour government," so the UK Labour government, "defend Israel repeatedly will horrify the British public. It cannot go on like this." You know, like, why, like, can we not have more leaders? Why is it just fucking Zach Polanski and Pedro Sanchez that are principled and consistently against this? And now we are genuinely seeing, like, because of the incompetence and non-action by, like, center or even, like, maybe slightly center-left parties like Social Democrats, because we see no movement from them, and we see all of the organizing and effort by the left-wing parties and organizing figures, we are seeing this become such a popular movement that the right-wing, populist, like, far-right, racist parties and political figures are now starting to, you know, be more proactive about this, and those center or social democratic groupings. So, you know, I'm glad we have someone like Zach Polanski, but it's not enough. We need much more strong leftist, anti-war, anti-genocide, anti-Zionist figures that don't, that aren't anti-Semitic, that aren't Islamophobic. That's what we need right now. We don't need the AfD to be anti-war because they will only lead us astray. So yeah, that is pretty much it, I think, for today. I kind of wanted to, because, I just want to, I guess, finish off with one thing. And that is, I think sometimes when we do look at China, whether that is for their economic policy or how they are right now responding in this fossil fuel, electric, renewable, energy stuff, I think there's a lot to learn and there's a lot we can take from it because, what does that tell us about our position and our decisions that we are making as Europe, let's say? We see with China that what happens when you invest in a long-term strategy, something that, maybe you have to invest in, but that will pay dividends not only in society, to the people, but also to, future unsecure situations like this, which come with a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty. They actually have a plan to deal with things and they have ways to kind of absorb the shocks, right? Meanwhile, Europe's plan is just pretty much to tell people to, can you just drive your car less? Can you work from home? I don't know how you can work from home with a factory job or when you need to work in the grocery store and when you need to work in a hospital. I don't know how you can work from home or drive less when you have, need to go to work to put food on the table for your family. That's just what the European leaders do. They're like, well, it's going to be just more expensive, so just change your behavior. They're going to be a higher cost of living and just work from home. And China's approach in that way really tells us what is possible when we have a plan, when we have a vision. And Europe's approach just tells us what happens when you don't give a fuck about the people that live in your country. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about me. And that's not right. And that's not how it can be. It can be different, actually. So, that's, I guess, where we can leave it off for today. Spicy ending, I know. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm really happy that it's staying light for longer. That's great. Usually by this time by the time I started streaming initially in the winter period, it was dark before I even started streaming. So this is great. I keep saying it, but it bears repeating. I am working on improving the stream. I want to do some IRL streams. I want to still do my name change and do a bit of rebranding. Something more fun, something more me. But I'm still working on it, right? So until then, I'm going to keep streaming. I'm going to be live every Wednesday and Saturdays on twitch.tv/controlfin. So until things change and after things change, join. Hit that follow button. Come join in the chat. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. Name change will be a cool one for sure. Yeah, for me, the goal is really Control Fin. It's really quirky and fun, but it's I don't know. I want a little name change that kind of just shows me as a social being, right? Not to get all Marxist on you guys, but if you're not just real when you're really thinking hard and that's not when you're a real person. You're a real person when you're social, when you're in community and all that stuff. So I'm just trying to think of a name that reflects who I am in the community. And honestly, I want to take my time with it. So, hey, we're not streaming for thousands of people here, so it's fine. No one will know me as Control Fin. But I just want to get a name that represents who I am in the community. And that'll be it. But yeah, like I said, we'll be back for more streaming Saturday. Of course, we'll be back for more chess streaming Saturday as well. Maybe I will try to sometimes also do a little bit more gaming streams here and there, just because those are easier to do. And I'm gaming anyway, so I might as well. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, guys, anyway, that's going to be it for today. So thank you guys so much for joining the broadcast. It means a lot. And I hope you got some cool one-liners from me that you can say at your next family dinner when your weird uncle is talking about some racist shit. I don't know, man. I just hope that you guys enjoyed the broadcast. And yeah, don't forget to follow me to know when I go live. That's going to be it for today, guys. See you guys in the next stream Saturday. But that's just going to be it for now. Peace.